Right now, two massive storm systems are barreling toward the United States. And what makes this different from anything we have seen in February is a dangerous twist that most people are not prepared for. We are not just talking snow, we are talking a narrow band of freezing rain that could coat power lines, roads, and trees in a sheet of ice. And then, just days later, the entire weather pattern across America is about to flip upside down. I'm going to break down exactly when these storms hit, where they hit hardest, and what you need to do right now to get ready. But here is the thing. If you think this is just another winter storm update, stay with me until the 5-minute mark. Because what is coming after these winter storms, the pattern shift happening in early March, that is the part that could affect every single person watching this video. Every single one. And if you are watching from anywhere in the United States right now, drop your city in the comments. I am going to be responding with specific forecasts for as many of you as I can. Seriously, tell me where you live and I will tell you exactly what is heading your way. Now let me set the scene for you. Picture this. It is Sunday. You are in Kansas. The high temperature is 35 degrees. You need gloves just to walk to your mailbox. Now drive about 400 miles south to Wichita Falls, Texas. It is 90 degrees. People are in shorts and flip-flops. That is a 55-degree temperature difference in just a few hundred miles. Let that sink in. 55 degrees. That is not normal. That is the atmosphere loading a gun. And that gun is about to go off in a big, big way. So where does all this start? Let me take you through it step by step. We have an Arctic high-pressure system right now building across Saskatchewan and Alberta in Canada. Think of this as a giant dome of cold, heavy air pushing south into the United States. At the same time, moisture from the Pacific Ocean is spilling over the Rocky Mountains and racing eastward. When that cold Arctic air and that Pacific moisture collide, and they will collide late Saturday into Sunday, we get our first winter weather event. And here is why this one is tricky. This is not your typical low-pressure system rolling off the Rockies like the one we saw back in mid-January that brought widespread snow and ice coast to coast. No, this is different. This is a band of moisture sliding underneath a cold, high-pressure dome. That means the rising motion in the atmosphere, the engine that drives heavy precipitation, is weaker in some spots and stronger in others. So the difference between getting 2 inches of snow and getting nothing could come down to just 50 miles. That is how narrow this corridor could be. Here is the timeline, and I want you to pay close attention to the timing for your area. Late Saturday night into early Sunday morning. The northern plains and upper Midwest wake up to snow. Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa, the Great Lakes region. This first round is the appetizer. Maybe a coating to a couple of inches in the heavier snow bands, nothing to cancel your plans over, but it is the signal that things are changing. An Alberta Clipper, a fast-moving storm system coming down from Canada, clips northern New England early Saturday. Toronto and Montreal see light to moderate snowfall. Parts of northern Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine could see some flurries. But that is a sideshow. The real story starts Sunday. Now, Sunday into Monday. This is when it gets real. A new surge of moisture pushes over the Rockies from the Pacific. This is round 2. And it is bringing a much more complex mix of snow, sleet, and freezing rain across the Central Plains, the Midwest, and into the Ohio Valley. Multiple models agree something is happening. They just do not agree on exactly where and how much. And for a storm that is only 2 to 3 days away, the amount of uncertainty is frankly unbelievable. Let me get specific. City by city, timing by timing, Kansas City, Missouri. Late Sunday evening, around 6 p.m. local time, precipitation starts developing. You see snow mixing with sleet and possibly freezing rain. This is the beginning of the winter weather event for the central United States. Conditions deteriorate through Sunday night. By Monday morning, roads could be slick. Bridges and overpasses freeze first. Remember that. Omaha, Nebraska. You are right in the mixing zone. Snow is likely late Sunday night with a transition to a wintry mix overnight. Accumulations of a couple inches of snow are possible before the transition. Lincoln, Nebraska. The GFS model puts you in a swath of several inches of snow. The European model is lighter. The truth is probably somewhere in between, but plan for a few inches minimum. Des Moines, Iowa. Snow Sunday into Monday, probably 2 to 4 inches total. A freezing rain component is possible along the southern edge of the precipitation shield. That thin line of ice could extend from central Iowa southward, Minneapolis, Minnesota. Cold through the weekend, light snow possible Saturday night. Temperatures stay firmly below freezing. You are north enough that this is mostly a snow event for you. But here is the wild part. I need you to hear this. By the end of next week, you could be looking at temperatures in the 50s. Possibly 60s. In Minneapolis, in early March, we will get to that. Milwaukee, Wisconsin, light snow Saturday night from that Alberta Clipper. Another round Monday with a couple inches possible. Cold temperatures mean it sticks around. Chicago, Illinois. The models are fighting over you. The European model barely clips you with snow. The GFS model pushes the system further south and keeps the heavier precipitation away. But a couple inches of snow are not out of the question. You need to be watching updates closely because a small shift in the storm track puts you right in the heavier snow band, St. Louis, Missouri. The GFS model is aggressive here. It brings accumulating snow all the way down to the St. Louis metro and even Columbia, Missouri. The European model is lighter, but there is a definite signal for winter weather in east central Missouri. Indianapolis, Indiana. Multiple models agree you are getting snow. A few inches look probable by Monday morning. And here is the kicker. There is the potential for a thin glaze of ice on top of that snow. That combination, snow with an ice cap, is the worst-case scenario for driving. It looks like a regular snow-covered road, but it is actually a skating rink underneath. Cincinnati, Ohio. A wintry mix is likely late Sunday into Monday. Freezing rain, sleet, maybe a little snow, just enough to make every road, every bridge, every overpass treacherous. The National Weather Service will probably issue advisories for the greater Cincinnati metro, Columbus, Ohio. A few inches of snow look probable. Both the Euro and the GFS show snowfall for central Ohio. This one has higher confidence than some of the other cities. Now here is where the plot thickens, and I mean really thickens. By Monday afternoon and evening, the storm system starts pushing east toward the Appalachian Mountains and the East Coast. And the Arctic high pressure that was driving this whole event, it starts to weaken. But, and this is a big but, there is still enough cold air trapped at the surface, especially on the eastern side of the Appalachians, to create what meteorologists call cold air damming. Let me explain this because it is the key to everything that happens next. Cold air is dense. It is heavy. When a cold, high-pressure system parks itself to the north and northeast, that heavy, cold air gets funneled down the eastern slopes of the Appalachians and pools in the valleys and Piedmont regions of Virginia, the Carolinas, Maryland, and Pennsylvania. It is literally dammed up against the mountains, and it refuses to budge. Now, warmer air riding in from the west and southwest tries to push the cold air out, but it cannot, so it rides over the top, and what falls from the sky starts as rain way up high in the atmosphere. It falls through that warm layer, but then it enters that stubborn cold air trapped at the surface, and it freezes on contact, on everything. Power lines, trees, roads, your windshield, your front porch steps, that is freezing rain. And pound for pound, it is the most destructive and dangerous form of winter weather in America. So here is where storm number 1 really gets serious for the East Coast. And this is the part I promised you. Monday evening through Tuesday morning, March the 3rd, this is the window you need to circle on your calendar. Virginia. You are looking at a significant event. Snow in the mountains in Shenandoah Valley, a dangerous icy mix in the Piedmont and Tidewater regions. The GFS model is showing over half a foot of snow in parts of western Virginia with a substantial ice component further east. Now, I am not fully buying that extreme solution yet, but the trend has been toward more ice, not less, and that should concern you. Richmond, Virginia. You are right in the heart of the ice threat zone. Monday through Tuesday could be a long-duration event. When I say long duration, I mean 12 to 18 hours of freezing rain and wintry mix. If the models verify, this could be the most impactful winter weather event of the season for central Virginia, West Virginia. Snow, period. The higher elevations could see several inches. Charleston gets a solid wintry mix with significant snowfall on the GFS model. Washington, D.C., snow starts moving in Monday evening. The European model shows snow first, then a transition to a mix, and eventually rain by Tuesday evening as the warmer air wins the battle. But you could see 2 to 4 inches of accumulation before that switch happens. And the switch itself, that transition zone, is often the most dangerous period because ice forms during the changeover, Baltimore, Maryland. Similar story to DC snow first, then a transition to ice, and eventually rain. The timing of that transition is everything. If the cold air holds longer than expected, you could see significant ice accumulation. If the warm air wins faster, it is a rain event. Models will be fighting over this right up until it happens. Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. You are in the zone. Southern Pennsylvania has a signal for a solid icy mix Tuesday morning. Snow and ice are both on the table. The probability maps from the Weather Prediction Center show a 10 to 30% chance of exceeding a quarter inch of frozen precipitation for the Philadelphia metro, Wilmington, Delaware. Right in the transition zone between snow and ice. A few inches of snow are possible with a wintry mix following. New York City. Late Monday into Tuesday, a moderate snow event develops. The European model shows snow starting heavy, maybe 2 to 4 inches, and then transitioning to ice for the 5 boroughs and Long Island. North of the city, into the Hudson Valley and Connecticut, snow totals could be higher. Northern New Jersey. Snow and ice both look likely Tuesday. This is another area where the cold air damming influence could bring more ice than expected. Hartford, Connecticut. Snow Tuesday, possibly heavy at times. 3 to 5 inches are not out of the question. Providence, Rhode Island. Snow and a possible wintry mix Tuesday. Higher totals north of the city where temperatures stay colder. Boston, Massachusetts. It starts as snow and the models actually show it eventually trying to switch to rain, which is unusual for early March in Boston. But you could pick up 3 to 5 inches before that transition, Portland, Maine. You hold on to the cold the longest. All snow from this event could be the biggest winner in terms of accumulation in New England, Burlington, Vermont. All snow. Several inches possible. Classic New England winter weather. Albany, New York. Significant snow possible Tuesday with 4 to 6 inches on some model runs. Syracuse, New York. Heavy snow Tuesday. This is upstate New York lake-enhanced snow country, and you know the drill. Several inches. Buffalo, New York. Lake effect snow continues early in the week, then transitions to rain as the warm air eventually wins. Now, here is a critical detail about the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast that I need you to understand right now. The models are showing something they have not shown in a while for this region. A pretty widespread area of ice accumulation. The European model paints a significant ice swath across much of the Mid-Atlantic on Monday and Tuesday. The GFS agrees there is an ice threat but puts it in slightly different locations. When two major models both flag ice but disagree on exact placement, that actually increases my concern. Because it means the ice threat is real. We just do not know exactly where the bullseye ends up. And I have to tell you something that might surprise you. This could extend further south than many people expect. The GFS model pushes wintry mix as far south as northern North Carolina. Charlotte, you need to be watching this. Raleigh and the Research Triangle, cold air damming could bring freezing rain to your area Monday into Tuesday. We even have a signal as far south as central North Carolina for freezing rain. That is a big deal for cities that do not deal with this very often. Norfolk, Virginia. Ice is the primary concern Monday and Tuesday. Then it transitions to rain, Virginia Beach. Wintry mix possible before the switch to rain. Now, before I get to the massive pattern flip, let me do something I think is really important. I know a lot of you watching this are sitting there thinking, okay, great, you mentioned the big cities, but what about me? I live in a smaller town. Does this affect me? The answer is yes. Let me hit some areas that do not always make the national forecast. Scranton and Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. You are in the snow and ice zone for Tuesday. Northeastern Pennsylvania could see significant accumulation. The Poconos, even more so. If you commute on Interstate 81 or Interstate 80, build extra time into your Monday evening and Tuesday morning drive. Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, state capital, right in the ice threat zone. Freezing rain is a real possibility Monday night through Tuesday. State government offices might see delays. Reading, Pennsylvania, same setup. Ice before snow or rain takes over. Watch for downed tree branches on power lines. Allentown and Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, snow and ice. Lehigh Valley could see several inches with an ice glaze. Binghamton, New York, all snow for you. Could pick up 4 to 6 inches from this event. Utica, New York. Snow. Heavier bands possible. Mohawk Valley gets squeezed between lake effect and synoptic snow. Springfield, Massachusetts. Snow Tuesday. 3 to 5 inches possible before a transition to mix. Worcester, Massachusetts. Higher elevation means colder temperatures means more snow. Could outperform Boston significantly. Bangor, Maine. All snow. You keep winter the longest. Several inches likely. Concord, New Hampshire. Snow, heavy at times Tuesday. This could be a plowable event for interior New England. Dover, Delaware. Right on the snow-ice rain line. A frustrating forecast because a few degrees either way changes everything. Trenton, New Jersey. Snow and ice Tuesday. A messy commute is almost guaranteed. Atlantic City, New Jersey. More rain than snow, but a brief period of wintry mix is possible during the onset. Now, I want to address something that I think a lot of people are wondering. Is this normal? Are 2 winter storms followed by severe weather in the span of 1 week something we should expect? Here is the honest answer. In early March, this kind of pattern transition is actually when the atmosphere is at its most volatile. You still have cold air available from the north, but the sun angle is increasing. The days are getting longer. The Gulf of Mexico is starting to warm up, and when those competing forces collide, the atmosphere does not ease into spring. It crashes into it. Think of it like a rubber band. Winter has been stretching that rubber band all season, and right now it is about to snap. When it snaps, you get extreme contrasts. 90 degrees in Texas and 35 degrees in Kansas on the same day. Winter storms and tornado watches in the same week. That is the atmosphere releasing all that pent-up energy. And that brings me to something else I want to highlight. The Storm Prediction Center puts out something called the Accumulated Supercell Composite Parameter. It is basically a tool that shows us where the ingredients for rotating thunderstorms, the kind that produce tornadoes, are most likely to come together over a given time period. For the period of March the 5th through the 11th, that parameter is lighting up across the southern plains, the lower Mississippi Valley, and into parts of the Tennessee Valley. That is a signal. An early signal, yes, but a real one. And when you combine that signal with everything else we are seeing, the moisture return, the jet stream pattern, the temperature anomalies, it paints a picture of a very active start to severe weather season. One more thing about the winter storms before we move on. I keep getting asked this. What about ice storms and power outages? Here is the deal. It does not take much ice to cause problems. A quarter inch of ice accumulation on power lines can start snapping branches. Half an inch brings down entire limbs and can cause widespread outages that take days to restore. The European model is showing areas of ice accumulation across the mid-Atlantic that, if verified, could absolutely cause power outages for hundreds of thousands of people. If you live in Virginia, Maryland, southern Pennsylvania, Delaware, or New Jersey, I am telling you right now, charge your devices. Have a plan. If you rely on electric heat, think about where you would go if the power goes out for 24 to 48 hours. This is not fear-mongering. This is being prepared. Now, here is where we make the transition to the real story. The one I have been building toward this entire video. Are you ready? Because everything I just told you about winter storms, snow, and ice, that is about to become a distant memory in a matter of days. By Tuesday into Wednesday of next week, the entire weather pattern across the United States flips completely. The jet stream, which has been dipping south and keeping cold air locked in place over the eastern United States, lifts dramatically to the north. When I say dramatically, I am talking about one of the most aggressive pattern changes I have seen this late in the season. A massive ridge of high pressure is going to build over the eastern United States like a wall. It is going to spike high into the atmosphere, and at the same time, a deep trough is going to dig in along the west coast. That combination is the recipe for something we have not seen since last spring, and it is going to happen fast. This is where severe weather season roars back to life. Here is the science behind it. When you have a ridge spiking over the east and a trough diving along the west, storm systems come pouring over the Rocky Mountains one after another after another. They ride down that trough like a roller coaster, and then they get flung across the middle of the country. As they move, they pull warm, moist air up from the Gulf of Mexico like a giant vacuum cleaner. The Euro Ensemble model, which is made up of 51 individual model runs all averaged together, is already showing dew points rising into the 60s across Louisiana, Arkansas, eastern Texas, and the western Deep South by Tuesday of next week. What does that mean in plain English? Dew points in the 60s are when you walk outside and you can feel the humidity on your skin. Your glasses fog up. The air feels thick. That is the atmosphere telling you it has loaded up with fuel for big storms. Dew points in the 70s, that is sauna territory. That is when you walk outside and sweat immediately. And that is when severe weather goes from possible to almost certain. By Thursday and Friday of next week, that moisture sector expands dramatically. We are talking dew points in the 60s, stretching from the Gulf Coast all the way up into the Ohio Valley and the Midwest. That is a massive area of storm fuel sitting right in the path of multiple low-pressure systems racing across the country. And here is what makes this setup so dangerous. At 18,000 feet up in the atmosphere, there is a river of wind screaming across the country from southwest to northeast. That fast upper-level flow provides the wind shear, the change in wind speed and direction with height, that turns ordinary thunderstorms into supercells. And supercells are the ones that produce tornadoes. The Storm Prediction Center has already flagged it. They have issued a 15% risk of severe weather, essentially a slight risk, for Wednesday into Thursday of next week. That is day 6 in the forecast, and they are already lighting it up. The primary area of concern runs through the southern plains, through Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, and into parts of the Ohio Valley. Main threats right now? Large hail and damaging winds. But I am going to be straight with you. When you have this kind of moisture return combined with that much wind shear, tornado risk is absolutely on the table. It would be irresponsible not to mention it. And here is the part that concerns me the most. This is not a one-and-done event. This is a multi-day, possibly multi-week severe weather pattern that is setting up across the United States. Let me walk you through the day-by-day timeline so you know exactly what to expect. Tuesday, March the 4th. The warm air surges north. You can literally feel the pattern changing. Moisture from the Gulf starts flooding back into the southern plains. This is the transition day. Winter ends. Severe weather season begins. Wednesday, March the 5th. First potential severe weather day. The Storm Prediction Center is already highlighting this date 6 days in advance. Southern plains, deep south Mississippi Valley. Thunderstorms develop along and ahead of a cold front. Large hail, damaging winds, and the first real tornado threat of 2026, Thursday, March the 6th. The severe weather corridor shifts east. A new low-pressure system develops and rides across the moist sector. Mississippi Valley and Ohio Valley are in the crosshairs. More storms, more hail, more wind damage potential. Friday, March the 7th. Here comes another round. This is the one I am watching most closely. The Euro model shows yet another storm system ejecting over the Rockies and diving into that trough. This system has the potential to be significant, and it is riding over all that moisture that has been building for days. Saturday, March the 8th. The hits keep coming. Another low-pressure system moves across the country. The same areas that got hammered Wednesday through Friday could see round 4, Sunday, March the 9th through Wednesday, March the 12th. The pattern remains locked in. Multiple additional rounds of severe weather are possible during this entire stretch. Do you see the problem here? When you get hit with heavy rain over and over and over again across the same region, you do not just have a severe weather problem. You have a flooding catastrophe building in slow motion. The Euro Ensemble model is projecting 6 inches of total rainfall across parts of Arkansas, northeast Texas, Oklahoma, and up into the Midwest between now and approximately March the 13th. 6 inches. And that is the model average. The extreme members show even more. The Weather Prediction Center has issued a rare high risk of heavy precipitation between March the 6th and the 9th. The entire state of Arkansas is included. When was the last time you saw a high risk for heavy rain issued that far in advance? That tells you how strong and how confident this signal is. Surrounding the high-risk area is a moderate risk zone extending from eastern Oklahoma through the Ozarks and into the mid-Mississippi Valley between the 6th and the 10th. A slight risk extends even further, running from the 6th all the way through the 12th. Here is a number that should make you stop and think. It takes about 2 inches of rain falling in a short period to cause flash flooding in most areas. We are talking about 6 inches or more over a multi-day period across terrain that is hilly, already saturated, and drains into rivers that are currently running above normal. Now let me give you the temperature story because this is where it gets wild. The Climate Prediction Center, a 6 to 10-day temperature outlook covering March the 4th through the 8th, shows above average temperatures for essentially the entire continental United States. The whole thing. Every state except Alaska. The 8 to 14-day outlook covering March the 6th through the 12th shows high confidence for well above average temperatures across the eastern two-thirds of the country. Not just a little above, well above. Real numbers, real cities, Chicago. By the end of next week, you could be looking at highs in the 50s and 60s in early March. After a February that brought sub-zero wind chills, that is a 70-degree swing in some cases. Minneapolis, 50s, possibly 60s. Some extended range models even hint at 70 degrees within 10 to 14 days. In Minnesota, in March, Wisconsin, massive warm-up, 50s and 60s. Snowmelt is going to be catastrophic in some areas. Michigan, temperatures surging into the 60s, possibly 70s. Every inch of snow on the ground is going to turn into water running downhill. And that is the cascading effect I need you to understand. You have got significant snowpack across the northern plains, upper Midwest, and Great Lakes. When you take temperatures from the 20s and 30s and rocket them to the 60s and 70s in a matter of days, that snow does not politely and slowly melt. It melts fast, violently fast. Now add heavy rain on top of rapid snowmelt. Rivers that are already running high from the snowmelt suddenly get hit with multiple inches of rain. And now you have a flooding situation that goes from concerning to genuinely dangerous in a hurry. Here is the extended city-by-city breakdown for the pattern change and severe weather period. Get a pen or just save this video. Dallas, Texas. Severe weather risk starts as early as Wednesday. Large hail and damaging winds are the primary threats. Temperatures in the upper 70s and low 80s. This is full-on springtime in North Texas, Houston, Texas. Heavy rain and thunderstorms midweek. Flooding is always a concern in Houston given the flat terrain and poor drainage. Multiple rounds of rain could cause urban flooding. San Antonio, Texas. Storms possible Wednesday through Friday. Nothing extreme expected, but stay weather aware. Austin, Texas. Thunderstorms midweek, heavy rain possible. Hill country flooding is always a concern with these setups. Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. You are right in the severe weather corridor. Wednesday through Friday looks active with all hazards on the table, including tornadoes. Make sure you know where your safe room is. Tulsa, Oklahoma. Same window, same threats. The moisture return will be dramatic here. Dew points jumping from the 40s to the 60s in less than 48 hours. When that happens, you know storms are coming. Norman, Oklahoma, home of the Storm Prediction Center. They will be very busy next week. Severe weather likely Wednesday through Friday. Lubbock, Texas. On the western edge of the severe weather threat, storms fire along the dry line as it sets up through West Texas, Amarillo, Texas. Dry line thunderstorms possible midweek. Little Rock, Arkansas. This is ground zero for the flooding rain threat. Multiple rounds of heavy rain from Wednesday through at least the following Monday. 6+ inches of rain. River flooding likely. Flash flooding probable. This is serious. If you live in a low-lying area near any waterway in central Arkansas, you need to have a plan now. Fort Smith, Arkansas, same as Little Rock. Heavy rain, flooding, severe storms. Jonesboro, Arkansas. Northeast Arkansas is in the heavy rain zone. Significant flooding is possible. Memphis, Tennessee. Heavy rain and thunderstorms. The severe weather threat extends into western Tennessee. 4 to 6 inches of rain is possible over a 5 to 7 day period. The Mississippi River and its tributaries will be running high. Nashville, Tennessee. Storms arrive by Thursday. Heavy rain continues into the weekend. Cumberland River and tributary creeks will need to be monitored closely. Knoxville, Tennessee. Storms late in the week. East Tennessee sees less rain than the western part of the state, but still above average precipitation. Chattanooga, Tennessee. Thunderstorms Thursday into Saturday. Heavy rain and some flooding possible. Birmingham, Alabama. Severe storms possible Wednesday into Thursday. You already had a tornado earlier this week near Tuscaloosa and Huntsville. The atmosphere is primed and ready for more. Montgomery, Alabama. Storms Thursday. Heavy rain, Mobile, Alabama. Heavy rain from the Gulf moisture feed. Flooding possible in low-lying areas. Atlanta, Georgia. Storms possible late in the week. Heavy rain is the bigger concern. Temperatures surging into the 70s. Macon, Georgia. Storms Thursday into Friday. Heavy rain. Jackson, Mississippi, right in the severe weather zone. Wednesday through Friday carries the highest risk. All modes of severe weather possible. Hattiesburg, Mississippi. Heavy rain and thunderstorms. Flooding concern. New Orleans, Louisiana. Heavy rain and thunderstorms all week. Dew points in the 60s to 70s means it is going to feel like June. Flash flooding is always a concern in the Crescent City. Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Same as New Orleans. Multiple rounds of heavy rain. Atchafalaya Basin could see significant rises. Shreveport, Louisiana. Severe weather possible Wednesday. Heavy rain continues through the weekend. Springfield, Missouri. 4 to 6 inches of rain possible. Smaller creeks and streams will flood. James River could come up quickly. Joplin, Missouri. Severe weather and heavy rain both in the forecast from Wednesday through the weekend. Cape Girardeau, Missouri. Heavy rain and flooding likely along the Mississippi River corridor. Kansas City, Missouri. Here is the whiplash. You go from a winter storm Sunday and Monday to severe thunderstorms by Thursday. Snow on the ground one day, tornado watches the next. That is the kind of pattern change we are dealing with. St. Louis, Missouri. Snow early in the week, 60s by the end of the week. Thunderstorms and heavy rain by the following weekend. Absolute whiplash weather, Wichita, Kansas, transition zone. Storms fire along the warm front as it pushes north mid-week. Severe weather possible. Topeka, Kansas. Severe weather possible as early as Tuesday night as the pattern flips. Louisville, Kentucky. Northern Kentucky could see a wintry mix early in the week. By Thursday, temperatures are in the 60s with thunderstorms. Ohio River flooding could become an issue with the combination of snowmelt and rain. Lexington, Kentucky. Cold and wintry early. Warm and stormy by the end of the week. Indianapolis, Indiana. Snow Monday. Rain by Wednesday. Thunderstorms Thursday. Temperatures swing from the 20s to the 60s in 4 days. White River flooding possible. Evansville, Indiana. Heavy rain and severe storms from Thursday onward. Ohio River tributary flooding. Fort Wayne, Indiana. Wintry mix Monday. Spring weather by Thursday. Terre Haute, Indiana. Heavy rain and storms. Wabash River monitoring needed. Cleveland, Ohio. Lake effect snow gives way to rain and mild temperatures by the end of the week. 50s possible. Columbus, Ohio. Snow early in the week. Thunderstorms by Thursday. 50s and 60s. Toledo, Ohio. Snowmelt becomes a major concern as temperatures spike. Rain adds to the problem. Dayton, Ohio. Ice possible early in the week. Then a rapid warm-up with thunderstorms. Great Miami River flooding possible. Akron, Ohio. Snow Tuesday transitions to rain. Warming trend follows. Now out west. Denver, Colorado. You kick this whole thing off. Moisture spilling over the Rockies starts here. Snow in the mountains. Rain and thunderstorms at lower elevations midweek. Colorado Springs, Colorado. Mountain snow. Some thunderstorms possible at lower elevations. Albuquerque, New Mexico. Some showers possible, but you sit on the drier side of this pattern. Phoenix, Arizona. Mostly quiet. You are under the ridge. Las Vegas, Nevada. Dry and mild. Nothing significant. Salt Lake City, Utah. Mountain snow as systems pass through. Valley rain possible later in the week. Boise, Idaho. Active weather with rain and mountain snow. Portland, Oregon. Rainy is typical for early March. Seattle, Washington. Wet but nothing unusual for the Pacific Northwest. Sacramento, California. Some rain as the West Coast trough passes through. San Francisco, California. Rain chances increase. Nothing extreme. Los Angeles, California. Mostly dry. Maybe a light shower. San Diego, California. Dry and pleasant. Now I want to dig a little deeper into the severe weather threat because I do not think people fully appreciate what is setting up here. When meteorologists talk about a pattern being favorable for severe weather, there are 3 main ingredients they look at: moisture, instability, and wind shear. Think of it like a recipe. You need all 3 ingredients to bake the cake. If you are missing one, you might get some rain or a few rumbles of thunder, but nothing organized, nothing dangerous. Right now, we are looking at a setup where all 3 ingredients are not just present, they are amplified. Moisture. We talked about the dew points surging into the 60s and 70s. That is your fuel. The Gulf of Mexico has been relatively warm this winter. Sea surface temperatures are running above average. That means more evaporation, which means more moisture available to be pulled northward by these storm systems. Instability. When you have warm, moist air at the surface and cold, dry air above, that contrast creates instability. The warm air wants to rise, and when it rises, it forms thunderstorms. The greater the contrast between the surface and the upper atmosphere, the more explosive those thunderstorms become. With the trough digging along the west coast bringing cold air aloft and the Gulf feeding warm, moist air at the surface, the instability is going to be extreme. Wind shear. This is the one that separates garden-variety thunderstorms from supercells and tornadoes. Wind shear is the change in wind speed or direction as you go up in the atmosphere. At the surface, winds might be blowing from the south at 15 miles per hour. At 18,000 feet, winds could be blowing from the west at 70 miles per hour. That dramatic change in wind speed and direction causes thunderstorms to rotate, and rotating thunderstorms produce tornadoes. All three of these ingredients are going to overlap across a large area of the Southern Plains, the Mississippi Valley, and the Ohio Valley from roughly March the 5th through March the 12th. That is an 8-day window of severe weather potential. Not 1 day, not 2 days, 8 days. For comparison, the average severe weather outbreak in March lasts about 1 to 2 days. We are potentially looking at 4 times that duration, multiple rounds, multiple storms, hitting the same areas over and over. Here is something else I need to mention: nighttime tornadoes. The warm air surging north means overnight low temperatures are going to be unusually warm. When the atmosphere stays unstable after dark, thunderstorms can maintain their intensity well into the night and early morning hours, and nighttime tornadoes are significantly more deadly than daytime tornadoes. Studies show that tornadoes occurring between midnight and 6 a.m. are 2.5 times more likely to cause fatalities. Why? Because people are sleeping. They are not watching television. They are not looking out the window. Their phones might be on silent, and by the time a tornado warning wakes them up, they have seconds to react instead of minutes. If you are in the severe weather zone next week, please make sure your phone's weather alerts are turned on. Do not put your phone on Do Not Disturb mode. Consider getting a dedicated weather radio that will sound an alarm when a warning is issued for your county. These cost about $25 to $35, and they have saved countless lives. And while we are on the topic of preparation, let me talk about the flooding risk one more time because I cannot stress this enough. The areas of Arkansas, Northeast Texas, and the Ozarks that are being highlighted for 6+ inches of rain have terrain that is particularly vulnerable to flash flooding. The Boston Mountains, the Ouachita Mountains, the Ozark Plateau. These are areas with steep slopes, narrow valleys, and rocky soil that does not absorb water well. When you dump 6 inches of rain on that kind of terrain, the water runs off fast. Creeks go from ankle deep to chest deep in minutes. Roads that cross low water bridges become impassable. The White River, the Arkansas River, the Red River, the Ouachita River. All of these major waterways and their countless tributaries are going to be responding to this rainfall. If you live anywhere near a creek, stream, or river in this part of the country, know your flood risk, know your evacuation route, have a plan. Okay, so let me tie this all together for you. The big picture, 3 phases. Phase 1 runs through this weekend. Last blast of Arctic air pushes south. Cold temperatures. The final gasp of winter for most of the country. Phase 2 hits Sunday through Tuesday. 2 winter storms bring snow, ice, and a dangerous freezing rain threat from the Central Plains to the northeast. Tens of millions of people could be impacted. Ice is the wild card that could cause power outages for hundreds of thousands. Phase 3 begins Wednesday and runs through at least mid-March. The pattern flips violently. A massive ridge builds over the east. Severe weather returns with vengeance. Multiple rounds of thunderstorms, flooding rains, and the first tornado threats of 2026 hit the Southern Plains, the Mississippi Valley, and eventually the Ohio Valley. And here is what nobody is telling you about this. This pattern change is not subtle. It is not gradual. It is explosive. The kind of shift that catches people off guard because one day you are salting your driveway, and 3 days later you are watching tornado warnings scroll across your television screen. The kind of shift that historically causes the most damage because nobody is mentally prepared for severe weather yet. It is not the hurricane you see coming from 1,000 miles away that gets you. It is the ice storm you did not prepare for. It is the tornado that fires during the first warm-up when severe weather is the last thing on anyone's mind. It is the flooding rain that hits a region already dealing with rapid snowmelt. So here is what I need you to do. If you are in the Midwest or Central Plains, get ready for winter driving this weekend. Check your car battery, check your tires, keep an emergency kit in your vehicle, a blanket, water, phone charger, flashlight. If you are in the Mid-Atlantic or Northeast, prepare for the possibility of ice Monday and Tuesday. That means flashlights, batteries, a plan for power outages. If you have a generator, test it now and make sure you have fuel. If you are anywhere in the Southern Plains, the Mississippi Valley, or the Ohio Valley, it is time to start thinking about severe weather safety. Know where your safe room is. Basement, interior room, on the lowest floor, away from windows. Have a weather radio. Make sure your phone's emergency alerts are turned on. And if you are in Arkansas, Northeast Texas, Oklahoma, or the Missouri Ozarks, take the flood threat deadly seriously. 6 inches of rain on saturated ground creates life-threatening flash flooding. Do not drive through water on the road. Turn around. Do not drown. That is not just a slogan. It is the #1 cause of flood deaths in America. It only takes 12 inches of moving water to sweep a car off the road. 12 inches. That is about knee deep. And you cannot tell how deep the water is just by looking at it. Let me also talk about something that I think gets overlooked in these multi-hazard events. Fatigue. When you go through a winter storm on Sunday, then another round Monday and Tuesday, then severe weather starting Wednesday, then flooding rain Thursday through the weekend, the danger is not just from any one individual event. The danger is that people get tired of watching the weather. They get tired of preparing. They start to let their guard down. And that is exactly when the worst can happen. The people who get hurt in severe weather events are not the ones who were watching and prepared. They are the ones who stopped paying attention because they were exhausted from dealing with the last storm. So here is my advice. Take it one day at a time. Deal with the winter weather this weekend, then reset. Deal with the ice threat Monday and Tuesday, then reset again. Deal with the severe weather starting Wednesday. Do not try to process 10 days of extreme weather all at once. Break it down. Handle what is in front of you and keep coming back here for updates. Let me give you a few more cities I want to make sure I cover because I know you are watching. Fayetteville, Arkansas, heavy rain and severe storms. Northwest Arkansas is squarely in the flooding rain zone. War Eagle Creek, the Illinois River, all of these waterways will be running very high. Pine Bluff, Arkansas, southeast of Little Rock, heavy rain, significant flooding possible along the Arkansas River. Texarkana, Texas and Arkansas, right on the border, severe storms and heavy rain. You are in the crosshairs for both hazards. Tyler, Texas, East Texas sees heavy rain and thunderstorms. Severe weather possible Wednesday. Longview, Texas, same as Tyler, heavy rain. Possible severe. Lake Charles, Louisiana. Thunderstorms and heavy rain. Gulf moisture creates a persistent rain threat. Lafayette, Louisiana. Multiple rounds of heavy rain midweek through the weekend. Bayou flooding possible. Alexandria, Louisiana. Central Louisiana in the heavy rain zone. Red River will need watching. Paducah, Kentucky. Western Kentucky often gets overlooked, but you are right in the severe weather and flood zone. Ohio and Tennessee rivers converge near you. This is serious. Bowling Green, Kentucky. Severe weather possible Thursday into Friday as the storms push east. Clarksville, Tennessee, just north of Nashville. Same threats. Heavy rain and thunderstorms. Tupelo, Mississippi. Severe storms possible. This is the heart of Dixie Alley for tornadoes. Stay alert. Meridian, Mississippi. Storms and heavy rain. All modes of severe weather possible. Dothan, Alabama. Southeast Alabama gets into the severe weather mix by Thursday. Pensacola, Florida. Heavy rain from the Gulf connection. Thunderstorms, localized flooding. Now here is one more thing I want to leave you with, and this is important. The pollen. With temperatures surging from the 30s into the 60s and 70s practically overnight, pollen counts are about to go into absolute overdrive. Trees that have been dormant all winter are going to explode. If you have allergies, start your medication now. Do not wait until your eyes are swollen shut and you are sneezing 40 times a day. Get ahead of it. Drop your city in the comments right now. I am going to come back and respond with specific timing, specific threats, and specific actions for your area. Whether you are in a small town in rural Arkansas or a high-rise in Midtown Manhattan, I want to make sure you are ready. That is what we do here. Hit subscribe if you have not already. I am updating this forecast every single day as the models sharpen up. Tomorrow's video could show significant changes, and you want to see those changes before they catch you by surprise. But one more thing before I go, and this is why you need to come back for the next video. There is a signal on the long-range models that I have been tracking, and if it verifies, the severe weather season of 2026 could be starting earlier and running harder than anything we have seen in recent years. The atmospheric ingredients are all lining up. Gulf moisture, Pacific energy, wind shear, upper-level jet stream dynamics, all of it. In the next video, I am going to break down exactly what the extended range models are projecting for the second half of March. We are talking potential tornado outbreaks, additional flooding rain events, and a pattern that might not let up for weeks. You absolutely do not want to miss that. I also want to do something special. If you drop your city in the comments right now, I am not just going to tell you what is coming. I am going to tell you the exact timing, when it starts, when it peaks, when it ends, for your specific location. That is the kind of detail that can make the difference between being caught off guard and being fully prepared. And here is a quick heads up for everyone in the allergy crowd. The combination of warm temperatures and moisture that is about to flood the country means pollen season is going to hit like a freight train. Trees that have been dormant since November are about to wake up all at once. Oak, cedar, maple, elm, all of them. If you normally start your allergy medication in mid-March, bump that up to this week. Seriously. The pollen counts are going to be astronomical by the end of next week, especially across the Southeast, the Ohio Valley, and the Mid-Atlantic. One last thing. I see a lot of you asking in the comment section of previous videos whether this kind of pattern shift means an active tornado season for 2026. I am going to give you a deep dive on that in an upcoming video. But I will say this, the early signals are not subtle. The pattern indicators we are seeing right now, the ridge over the east, the active trough in the west, the early season moisture return, these are the same setup ingredients that preceded some of the most active tornado seasons in recent memory. That does not mean 2026 will definitely be extreme, but it means we need to be watching very closely. And I will be right here keeping you posted every step of the way. Stay safe out there. Prepare now while you still have time. Drop your location in the comments, and I will see you in the next one.